welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Coviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Ancient Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how are you this week?
I am warmer than if I were in New Jersey, but it is still a bit chilly down here in Orlando.
Well, you're on property, and you're on property because it's still festival season going on at Epcot. We are now ushering in
Which season isn't festival season
correct.
going on in Epcot?
There's like 6 days. So we are entering into the Flower and Garden Festival, and we're going to talk about that over two shows. But tonight is going to be all about the flowers and the gardens, and I'm excited to hear about it because you are there. You were there today.
I am here today. The festival is running from March 5th through June 2nd. It is 87 days long, so just 3 days shorter than last year. And those of you thinking that's very short, we talked this time last year that we were back to regular festival seasons. During COVID, this festival went on for close to 150 days. But now that we're back to regular park occupancy and trying to make things normal again, Epcot does actually have a season that is not festivals, and that's going to be June 2nd to mid-August when we bring back the Food and Wine Festival.
So this is our last one until we see Food and Wine, but we do have 87 days of it. You were there kind of in the beginning of it. So tell us what's new. What should we expect that's new from Flower and Garden in 2025?
Again, I can't give a big enough shout out to the horticulture team. They surpass what they do every year, and I am in awe of their continued creations. And their big thing is always the entryway, and this year is a new entryway themed for Moana 2, the movie. I have talked before that my brother always says, hey doesn't get enough credit. We've got Moana, Maui, Hey, and Pua right in the entrance.
Nice.
Done not just in greenery, but in greenery and color, a massive display. And something I'll talk about a little bit later in the show, but a light up part of the display, which is really cool to see.
Oh, nice. So I guess the question I have for you, because you're there now, right? And we talked about how it's the beginning of the festival. Do you think, because you've gone all over the place, do you think it's best to go to the festival at the beginning of the season, towards the end? Because March 5th to June 2nd, it's a very different span of weather when you're looking at that time period.
It is, and obviously being flowers and gardens, things grow. Mm-hmm. I snuck in right at rope drop this morning for on-site guests because I wanted to get some pictures of the new things. I didn't do so well with all of my photos yesterday. And it was amazing to me. Between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, I saw 5 different horticulture specialists trimming the topiaries. So we know that they don't magically appear out of nowhere. They've been backstage growing in gardens. But every morning they are in there looking and cutting every individual leaf to make it perfect.
And there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
So, I guess is your take that you're seeing the same things that you would see now that you would see later? Do you think there's a difference?
I do. I think you're getting the best show every day. They really want to make it perfect for everybody every day. I would say, if anything, I do opening day so that I can give you coverage. I'm not naive enough to think that you're not following anybody else on social media or any other bloggers. And what it honestly means is opening day or two is extra crowded, lots of people taking photos. And if there was anything not perfect and it's got to be fixed on the Disney side, they're going to see that on day 1 or day 2 when everything really turns on. Though honestly, some of these gardens have started to go into place over the last week or so.
So tell us about your park day then, because you got there and you've been there as this festival is opening up. So tell us what it's like to experience that as a park guest.
Every park trip is different. And I will say I definitely have the advantage at the moment that I'm not going with young children. So it allows you to really do what I like to do besides doing Disney, which is people watching and trying to understand what is behind what some of these people do, and being thankful that I don't have a screaming 2-year-old with me and I'm not dealing with all those other things. But I thought I'd bring a little bit of a PSA of a few highlights of my people watching over the last 48 hours.
Okay.
And the first one, I'll be honest, it first annoyed me and then turned into tonight's PSA, because I think sometimes I don't remember to tell all of our first time clients about everything. And people who have never been to Disney don't understand what they're in for. And so my first one of today was a mother-daughter here. It didn't look like they had anybody else with them. The mother had what I am guessing is a 3-year-old, roughly. She was happily pushing the 3-year-old stroller with no 3-year-old in it. Well, next to her was a 3-year-old pushing a stroller with her dolly in it.
Mm.
And I will say that just for the probably minute and a half that I watched this dynamic while I was waiting in line to try some of the new food, I was in a long line and I saw them coming by. The child hit a sidewalk, hit a person, hit the mother's stroller. And I thought, why on earth would you bring that? Your child has to navigate through all the people, and then you're going to get to go on a ride and you're going to have to park 2 strollers and find 2 strollers. And I am sure back at home, they do this at the park and it makes perfect sense and it's easy. But your neighborhood park is very different than a Disney theme park. So think carefully about what you bring, not just the baby stroller. But I encourage you, last night I picked up a shoe on the walkway from Epcot to Beach Club and turned it in. I don't know if it'll ever be united with that child. So don't bring anything that you're not willing to lose. I get nobody goes into it losing it, but if your child has that stuffy that they can't sleep without, the baby blanket that is the make or break, think carefully about bringing it on vacation to begin with if it's the only and the original. But definitely, I beg you, give it a second thought about bringing it into the park. And when you leave your room to go to the park during the day, put it into a drawer or a cabinet. Sometimes when housekeeping changes sheets for you, they accidentally pull up the blanket and everything, and it could take days for you to get back. So leave that all important thing at home if possible, or tucked safely away in your resort room.
That's good advice. As somebody who has a kid that's constantly has 2 kids that now have been moving their stuffed animals around like they are their own children, I can tell you that the baby strollers thing, it does apply. I've never thought for a second to bring it to a Disney park, but
Parent who didn't want to fall into the trap of the child who has the blanket they can't live without. So I thought I was very smart. When I saw right away which blanket she gravitated to, I went and I bought a second one.
Yeah, it's not a bad play.
And I tried to wash it at the same time, even though she wasn't using it and all of those things. That child could tell anytime I tried to pull out the fake, because I tried to travel with the fake and leave the good one at home. So,
not good.
There is only one, and the kids definitely sense it.
Well, the kids have plenty of things that they can sense, that they can say on vacation. The people watching never seems to end when there's children involved.
So true. And on that, I'll give you 2 of my favorite out of the mouths of babes sentences from today.
Okay.
A different child in the middle of the park, I can relate to this feeling, just stopped in the middle of the walkway and turned to the mom and said, "I need a donut now, or I'm going to feel out of control."
That's kind of my every morning.
Clearly, donuts and sugar make you in control, not out of control,
Yes.
parents, in case you're wondering.
That's true. That's definitely true.
But the true highlight before I headed back to my hotel was a child that was probably about 7 or 8, so I like that they can appreciate things, who just said to her dad as they were walking, we passed in opposite directions on a walkway, "Daddy, I want you to know I had the best day ever. And that is truly what Disney memories are about. You will have the tantrums. You will sometimes look at your bill and wonder what you spent. But it's that best day ever, those core memories like we talk about with Inside Out, that make this what it is for all of us.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have that been said to me several times while we've been in Disney World. So I can tell you, it never gets old. It definitely never gets old.
Now, if she was only about 200 feet down, she would have been in front of the new Inside Out 2 display this year. Would have been very perfect. They did a great job. All these huge colored pots. So you've got the red section and the angry flowers and the green pots with the disgusting flowers. So 5 sections of colored balls and one big topiary core memory ball in the middle. Really cute display.
Cool.
One of the other things that I was kind of surprised by, but yes, I was a little bit of the stalker about it today. They've always put playgrounds in, and we have a playground that is kind of pretty permanent over by the main gift shop. But they added a second playground for the festival, and it's called Play Along Bay. I think with Storm Along Bay closed right now, we've got lifeguards that don't necessarily have things to do. We've got chefs from that food stand that don't have things to do. So they got a new playground and a new food stand, all sponsored by Uncrustables.
Okay.
And, we talk about what you do at home and what you do at Disney, and do you need to go to a theme park and spend that money? But these children were playing on the playground on both of them. They were both very full, and the kids were having a blast. And sometimes I think it's important to remember that's what they need. Every resort on property has a playground as well. Sometimes they need to run, they need to be a kid, they don't need to wait patiently online. So even though we have playgrounds at home, definitely something to think about, letting them enjoy.
I can't agree more. We do it every time.
It's hard.
Every time.
The last new and big thing about the festival this year really surprised me. And that is Communicore Hall, that we've talked about, that new area that opened right in the middle of Epcot that was kind of being touted as the festival center. And I have to be honest, it's not, especially for this festival, not like any festival center we've seen in the past. And I love it.
Huh.
It does have a food booth inside, but instead of being all about the merchandise and the exhibits, half of the hall is just relaxing little couches and kind of Zen music playing. A great spot as we get closer to June and closer to very hot and needing an escape.
Yep.
A nice air-conditioned spot to sit and recenter yourself. It does have some neat flower facts. It's got a couple of garden displays in there, both real and some plasticky flower backdrops that make for some great family photos.
Okay.
And then the other half, as I said, does have a food station and tables and chairs for eating the stuff that you bought in there. And they did have the tables and chairs in there for Festival of the Arts as well. But again, Disney is all about those little touches. So one of the things that they did this time that I haven't seen before that I loved is all of the round tables were painted with big flowers. So one big flower and big petals that covered the whole round table. And all of the rectangle tables were painted with the front of seed packets, since it's also about gardening.
Oh, yeah.
So just a little touch that really infused things into the festival.
That's cool. All right. So listen, I got to ask you though, because you mentioned a little bit about it in the beginning, the topiaries, right? I mean, that's one of the huge things about this festival. So talk to me about the topiaries and maybe anything that's new.
30 topiaries this year, 30 locations, 84 topiaries. And again, if you haven't been to Flower and Garden before and you're thinking, topiaries are these little 1 and 2 foot things, they are massive. They are 4 to 6 feet tall. They're landscaped with whole gardens around them. They are just stunning. As I said, the big new one this year is the Moana 2. You see little changes in a lot of them because they do rotate some of the locations. There are some that seem to stay in the same spot every year, but some that move around. One of my favorites that has its home and doesn't move is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So right there, you're talking about 8 topiaries.
Right, yeah.
Just beautiful. I also love the Tinkerbell topiary because while she is just a single topiary, she has a full garden of little fairy houses. So
cool.
It's an entire scene that you can really appreciate.
Yeah.
One of the things we saw last year that I remember talking about is over in France, they have Beauty and the Beast as 2 topiaries. And then in a garden adjacent to it, they have Lumiere and Cogsworth. And if you went at night, the flame for Lumiere lit up, which I just thought was the coolest thing. See,
Sure.
it doesn't take a lot to entertain me.
No, that is cool. That's cool. You don't have to be embarrassed by that.
I think they're really realizing that Epcot in particular, as I looked around, has a lot of ability to really light up the night. And so they're taking advantage of that, both through a light display on Communicore Hall, a light display on Spaceship Earth, and then there are 4 topiaries, Lumiere I already mentioned, that light up. So Asha, who was last year's entryway, moved further into the park, and Asha is holding Star, as we all know.
Sure.
But if you stand there for a minute and you look carefully, you will see the garden start to twinkle, and the twinkle runs all the way from the garden up to the top of Asha's hand that is holding Star, and Star lights up differently and brighter than it did before, which is really neat.
Yeah.
If you are at the entrance and you are looking at Moana and Maui, again, if you stand there for just a minute, you will see Moana's paddle do a little light show and then send it over to Maui so that the display as a whole gets lit up. And then there's a 4th one that is Goofy chasing dandelions, and you can see the little puffs of all the flowers that twinkle. So neat to see. They've always obviously put spotlights and things so you can see.
Yeah, but this
all
is
of the
different.
topiaries at night, but now they're really trying to make them interactive, and I think that makes them extra cool.
That's cool. Well, that's the topiaries. What about the gardens?
I was very excited momentarily. If you've listened to the show over the years, I have always bashed the prehistoric garden. I have never understood how we continue to put this thing out. It's a garden, and it used to have like 4 plastic little 12-inch dinosaurs like your child would play with at home.
Right.
And when I went to the spot of the prehistoric garden, I was so excited to see that it was Groot's new home, and I thought we had done away with the prehistoric garden. Except we moved it and made it bigger. It now has about 16 plastic dinosaurs, and somebody decided that instead of them being the ratty orange and brown and beige that they always were, they should paint them neon. So they are now bright green and bright purple. I'm still at a loss for that garden.
Okay.
But check it out. But then move on to the better ones. The Fragrance Garden by Scentsy is back again. Again, if you don't have allergies to scents, go over and take it all in. It's amazing. The Tropical Garden is there. The Spice Garden is back. The Tea Garden is in the UK with tours you can sign up for twice a day. They are a free tour, but they fill extremely quickly. So if you want the tour, make a beeline there. No pun intended with our friend Spike B being our mascot.
There you go.
But they do offer a brochure to make it a self-guided tour throughout the day. So lots of fun extras you can do there.
Well, you're mentioning extras. So I do have to ask you though, with a festival, what kind of extras are there for people to take in?
They talk about behind the scenes being an extra tour through Living with the Land. I think they mention it in all of their stuff because it obviously fits in well with the theme.
Yeah.
We covered it back in episode 146. That tour is available all year round. You can pre-book it. It runs usually 8 to 10 times a day and is very popular and does fill.
Right.
They are also talking about the Purple Martins again this year. And it is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. The Purple Martins, if you're not familiar with them, is a special bird that Disney works really hard on tracking. And in a backstage tour that I did through Animal Kingdom Lodge, that's actually where they start and record all the data on the Purple Martins, and they have houses to try and attract them and follow the different colonies. So that's a neat thing to see.
Yeah, that is cool.
All of the festivals have a little scavenger hunt to keep the kids busy, where you can find whatever the hidden object is in different parts of the park.
Right.
And this is probably one of the few times that I say they really hit it out of the park with the prize this year. It is absolutely adorable. There are 4 plastic watering cans in different shapes, including Spike the Bee. So it's very thematic this year and can be useful, can be a great beach toy for your kids over the summer.
That's fun.
$9.99 for the scavenger hunt. Prize is then free. If you're concerned about doing the scavenger hunt, depending on the age of your child, you are able to purchase the scavenger hunt and get your prize at the same time. But if your child wants to feel like they did it all, go out, do the scavenger hunt, put the stickers on the paper.
Got it.
Stop and get your prize on the way back.
A prize is guaranteed, is what we're saying.
Guaranteed.
All right. Any other extras that you want to mention?
With every festival, we always have a concert series, and this year is no exception. The Garden Rocks concert series, 5:30, 6:45, and 8 p.m. daily. And you can get it as a dining package where you'll be given seats that get in first into the front of the theater, or you can go on the standby line. Remember that the theater in the American Gardens Pavilion is an outdoor theater.
Right.
So if you don't get in or you don't want to stand on the line and you're okay standing outside the theater, it's still outside, so you can hear.
Yeah, and you can see too from
you can
most
see
places.
And you can hear it from a good part of the World Showcase. And take a look. The bands change every 2 to 3 nights. There are a few cover bands, but a couple of great names. So take a look who's there during your dates. I wouldn't plan your entire vacation about it because obviously entertainment is always subject to change. But if you're a music lover, it is definitely worth the price of admission.
Okay, very cool. What about merchandise, right? There's always merchandise for all these festivals. This is clearly no exception.
Holy Hannah, the merchandise this year is out of control. I don't think I have ever seen so much merchandise for a festival as I have this year.
That's an aggressive take. I just want to point that out there. It's an aggressive take.
So much merchandise. It's really cool merchandise too.
Yeah.
It is the 30th anniversary of the festival, so there's a lot around the 30th anniversary. A lot around both Orange Bird and Spike the Bee. They're very big on things with honey. Apparently, Florida is now known for both honey and strawberries, I learned this year.
Okay, it's news to me, but all right.
They've been pushing the honey for a couple of years. I always thought of them as the orange state, hence Orange Bird.
Me too.
But this year on the festival, there's a lot that's all about the strawberries. So you've got regular kind of festival merchandise. You've got 30th anniversary festival merchandise. And then they made an entire Alice in Wonderland Flower and Garden Festival set of merchandise.
Oh, boy.
That is phenomenal. If you want clothing, if you want a lightweight jacket, a really cool purse, the Alice in Wonderland collection, I'm not a huge Alice fan, but their merchandise was awesome.
Very cool.
General festival stuff, again, anything you could want. 3 different Junie and Burke purses, mugs, travel cups, coffee mugs, every kind of cup you could imagine, t-shirts, sweatshirts, jerseys. And then they get into every festival, regardless of the time of year, seems to have at least one ornament. They had about 10 pins specific to Flower and Garden. They actually had a separate table set up in the middle of the gift shop that was manned by like 6 people, literally pulling stuff out of boxes just for pins. That's how many they had.
Wow. Okay. That's significant.
So much merchandise. Everything. I saw drink stirrers. I had to ask what one of the things was. I played with it for about 4 minutes and couldn't figure it out. Again, because of the garden theme, they've got things that are all about gardening. So this was like a cute little drawstring bag, and inside there were these 2 things that I couldn't figure out. It was foam kneelers for when you're gardening. They've got a Spike the Bee garden stake for you. Just again, I don't think you could want for anything merchandise-wise. So many different shirts, sets of ears.
That's, I mean, it sounds great. I mean, for you, it sounds like it was a dream.
There unique pass holder festival things on top of that. 2 different lug bags that I'm really coming to like the size of the lug bag. If you haven't looked at those are really neat. So definitely lots to see and lots of opportunity to spend some money.
Well, and that's without the food, which we told you we were going to do in a separate show. And as evidenced by our timing tonight, now you know why, right? So
next week will be Flower and Garden Festival, the food and wine edition.
That's good. I'm excited for that. But listen, I appreciate you taking the time going down there and seeing these things. It's always a fun festival for me to take in. I'm looking forward to taking it in when I get there on property. And I'll speak to you next week where we will promise to come having eaten before we record.
Sounds like a plan.
I'll see you then. And that's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share, have them like and subscribe. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week. And as always, keep making